1. Bible records, 124 miracles. 32a. Miracles are those acts that only God can perform, usually superseding natural laws. Baker's Dictionary of the Bible defines a miracle as an event in the external world brought about by the immediate agency or the simple volition of God. It goes on to add that a miracle occurs to show that the power behind it is not limited to the laws of matter or mind as it interrupts fixed natural laws. So the term supernatural applies quite accurately? B. Miracles are also known as signs and wonders. C. Here we have one of the 124 miracles recorded in the Bible. 2. Miracle 32. The Jordan divided, so that Israel passed over dry shod near the city of Adam, Joshua 3:14-17. A. Jordan River divided. Joshua 3:14-17 New King James Version, NKJV 14. So it was, when the people set out from their camp to cross over the Jordan, with the priests bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people. 15 And as those who bore the Ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests who bore the Ark dipped in the edge of the water, for the Jordan overflows all its banks during the whole time of harvest. 16 That the waters which came down from upstream stood still, and rose in a heap very far away at Adam, the city that is beside Zoretan. So the waters that went down into the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, failed, and were cut off, and the people crossed over opposite Jericho. 17 Then the priests who bore the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all Israel crossed over on dry ground, until all the people had crossed completely over the Jordan. B. Jordan, Hebrew, Yarden, meaning a descender, Arabic, Nar Esh Shariah, the watering place. I. The chief river of Israel. 2. The Jordan is mentioned in the Old Testament about 180 times, and in the New Testament 15 times. 3. It flows from north to south down a deep valley in the center of the country. The name descender is significant of the fact that there is along its whole course a descent to its banks, or it may simply denote the rapidity with which it descends to the Dead Sea. 4. It originates in the snows of Hermon, which feed its perennial springs. 2 sources are generally spoken of. At 1. From the western base of a hill on which once stood the city of Dan, the northern border city of Israel, there gushes forth a considerable spring called the Ledin, which is the largest spring in Syria and the principal source of the Jordan. At 2. Beside the ruins of Banias, the ancient Caesarea Philippi and the yet more ancient Panium, is a lofty cliff of limestone, at the base of which is a spring. This is the other source of the Jordan, and has always been regarded by the Jews as its true source. It rushes down to the plain in a foaming torrent, and joins the Ledin about 5 miles south of Dan, Tel El-Kadi. At 3. But besides these 2 historical springs there is a third, called the Hasbani, which rises in the bottom of a valley at the western base of Hermon, 12 miles north of Tel El-Kadi. It joins the main stream about a mile below the junction of the Ledin and the Banias. B. The river thus formed is at this point about 45 feet wide, and flows in a channel from 12 to 20 feet below the plain. After this it flows, with a swift current and a much twisted course, through a marshy plain for some 6 miles, when it falls into the Lake Haleh, the waters of Merom, QV. During this part of its course the Jordan has descended about 1,100 feet. At Banias it is 1,080 feet above sea level. Flowing from the southern extremity of Lake Haleh, here almost on a level with the sea, it flows for 2 miles through a waste of islets and papyrus, and then for 9 miles through a narrow gorge in a foaming torrent onward to the Sea of Galilee, QV. At 1. Along the whole eastern bank of the river and the lakes, from the base of Hermon to the ravine of Hiermax, a region of great fertility, 30 miles long by 7 or 8 wide. Ruins are numerous enough. Every mile or 2 is an old site of town or village. The words of Scripture here recur to us with peculiar force. I will make your cities waste, and bring your sanctuaries unto desolation. And I will bring the land into desolation, and your enemies which dwell therein shall be astonished at it. And your land shall be desolate, and your cities waste. Then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths, as long as it lieth desolate. Leviticus 26:31-34. 7. From the Sea of Galilee, at the level of 682 feet below the Mediterranean, the river flows through a long, low plain called the region of Jordan, Matthew 3:5, and by the modern Arabs the Gur, or sunken plain. This section is properly the Jordan of Scripture. Down through the midst of the plain of Jordan there winds a ravine varying in breadth from 200 yards to half a mile, and in depth from 40 to 150 feet. Through the Jordan flows in a rapid, rugged, tortuous course down to the Dead Sea. 8. The whole distance from the southern extremity of the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea is in a straight line about 65 miles, but following the windings of the river about 200 miles, during which it falls 618 feet. The total length of the Jordan from Banias is about 104 miles in a straight line, during which it falls 2,380 feet. 9. There are two considerable affluents which enter the river between the Sea of Galilee and the Dead Sea, both from the east. At 1. The Wadi Mantar, called the Yarmouk by the Rabbins, and the Hyramax by the Greeks. It formed the boundary between Bashan and Gilead. It drains the plateau of the Horan. At 2. The Jabbok or Wadi Zirka, formerly the northern boundary of Ammon. It enters the Jordan about 20 miles north of Jericho. X. The first historical notice of the Jordan is in the account of the separation of Abraham and Lot, Genesis 13:10. Lot beheld the plain of Jordan as the garden of the Lord. Jacob crossed and recrossed this Jordan, 32:10. The Israelites passed over it as on dry ground, Joshua 3:17, Psalms 114:3. 11. Twice afterwards its waters were miraculously divided at the same spot by Elijah and Elisha, 2 Kings 2:8-14. 12. The chief events in gospel history connected with it are: at 1. John the Baptist's ministry, when there went out to him Jerusalem, and all Judea, and were baptized of him in Jordan, Matthew 3:6. At 2. Jesus also was baptized of John in Jordan, Mark 1:9.